Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Right Here, Right Now, presented by Forefathers Organics. My name is Alex Brasky, alongside my co-host, Ajay Cybulski, here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, presented by our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, another disappointing performance put forth by the Bills on Sunday, falling in a thriller 23-20 at the hands of the Houston Texans. This game much different from the Bills' Week 4 defeat at the hands of the Baltimore Ravens when they were blown out on the road. This time they go on the road and they're blown out in the first half, trailing by as many as 17 points, 20-3. with 11:15 remaining in the third quarter. But then the Bills storm back. They score 17 unanswered points, tie it at 20 on a 33-yard field goal from Tyler Bass, and then some back and forth down the stretch of the game before the Bills get the ball back inside their own 5-yard line, and Sean McDermott elects to throw the ball 3 straight times, leaving the Texans with timeouts before they get the ball back with 16 seconds remaining. They throw it to the middle of the field with 7 seconds remaining after the punt return from Robert Woods. They bang a timeout. Jeremy Fairbairn runs onto the field, 59-yard field goal, drains it. Bills lose, fall to 3-2. A lot of questions after this one. Josh Allen, a poor performance, perhaps his poorest performance throughout his Bills career. 30% completion, the lowest of his NFL career. He finished 9 of 30 on the day for 131 yards and a touchdown, good enough for a 56.4 passer rating. More on him later, but the end of the game, really a questionable call from Sean McDermott, allowing the Texans the opportunity to call that timeout after going to the middle of the field to set up the game-winning field goal. I think rightfully so. He's being questioned after this one, AJ.
Yeah, it's the tale is old of time, right? They start hot, then they hit this 3-4 week stretch here in October-ish, November, where you're like, what the heck is going on? So there is some time for the Bills to figure this out. But yeah, very disappointing loss and ending to this game. It was just overall, all 3 phases, just everyone failed today. Coaching staff, players, all of it. But yeah, going to the McDermott late game decision making. I'll start with the third down picked up by the Texans to move the chains before they punted it away to the Bills. Before the Bills got that ball back with the 3 before they threw those 3 passes with Allen and they had to punt it away back to Houston and they won the game. On that third down before, to get the Texans kind of into field goal range, I forget who Stroud threw it to, but it was a running back. I got. Agambuale, I'm going to try that as best as I can for like a 12-yard gain. And Babbage kind of sent the house there. A lot of Bills along the line of scrimmage. And then on that 3rd and 5 call, they do the same thing, kind of bring a lot of pressure. And this time it works. Stroud throws it over. Intentional grounding is called, which I still thought was kind of a questionable call. But either way, they threw it. And the Bills don't elect to take the 10-second runoff. So there's 44 seconds. I understand like the mindset of like, okay, there's maybe enough time. We have Josh Allen, like anything's possible. Maybe he can lead them down the field and get them into field goal range late. But Texans had 3 timeouts. The Bills choose not to take the 10 seconds off. So instead of the Bills starting with the ball with probably around 30 seconds left, there's an extra 10 seconds on it. So they got the ball with around 40 seconds left. Then I thought they at least should have ran it on first down there to make them waste 1 timeout or maybe run all 3 times. But it's tough because I also understand the vision of trusting Josh Allen and taking those shots. He had some opportunities. Samuel was open. He missed the throw. There was obviously a lot of offensive line issues in this game as well, where he could not really fully step into some of his throws. But overall, just a disaster. Then you punt it away. Then Rasul Douglas in the locker room says after the game that there was only 10 men on the field and Dorian Williams was running on late and had no clue what the call was.
I think that has since been dispelled. I think
Okay.
there were in fact 11 players on the field on that play.
Okay, so 11 players on the field, but nonetheless, they drop like everyone into coverage but one guy. They pick up the 2 yards, and Fairbairn drills the field goal. So all in all, it's a typical, like, it's a Billsy loss, right? It's a Billsy loss. It's what they do. And it's been a problem now for a few years, and I understand the frustrations with Sean McDermott. I get it. There's been multiple times in key games where he's failed, but let's not forget that this offense was absolutely awful today and put the defense in no position to win this game. Josh Allen had an opportunity with 2 downs with the ball after the defense got a great stop. Sean McDermott and Bobby Babbich's defense played great in the second half, and Josh Allen, they don't score and they have to tie the game with a field goal. So I just think the offense had multiple opportunities. They ended the game with 3 punts on 4 possessions, minus that field goal. So there were multiple times where the Bills could have taken a lead in this game in the second half, and it just didn't happen in this offense. Again, there's a lot of people that support Josh Allen, and he's a great player. But you go back to Kansas City last year, 27-24 down 3 in Kansas City near the 25-yard line. They don't get it done right. They fall short. Now this one. Josh Allen and the offense falls short again, along with, again, some questionable decision makings. Maybe it goes to overtime, but overall, you cannot blame one singular person here. It was a total disaster from start to finish, and it starts with the coaching staff and also all the players involved. It was just a complete disaster all around.
Yeah, before we move on from Sean McDermott, this has been a story, like you said, a tale as old as time. 13 seconds, many more situations late in the game where Sean McDermott's decision making has cost this team. Now, I am one of the most pro Sean McDermott people, I think, in the media sphere. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league, one of the best coaches in sports. What he's done for this franchise to turn it around and turn it into a consistent contender, obviously alongside Brandon Beane and Josh Allen. It certainly helps when you have the franchise quarterback, but his shortcomings at the end of games are really starting to outweigh what he's done throughout the course of the season, because when you cost yourself in big games like this is what people start to remember, and this is what the narrative starts to become. And with McDermott throwing the ball 3 times at the end of the game, yes, the Houston Texans did have 3 timeouts left. If he does choose to run it 3 times, they could call a timeout after each one of those plays and set themselves up relatively with the same amount of time that they would have had regardless of the situation. But the difference here is they were allowed to attack the entirety of the field once they got the ball back to set up that field goal. And I think that's a huge difference maker. They throw it to the middle of the field. They bang that timeout, and then Fairbairn trots onto the field for the 59-yarder. McDermott, a great coach overall, but late in the game really struggles to make the right call. And I thought this one was obvious. You run the ball, like you said, at least on first down. And he admitted in the post-game press conference that he should have done so. I'll find the quote, kind of a broken quote here that I tweeted out after the game. He said, "The end of the game situation, we were in a tough situation. We needed to run the clock and move the chains, and that's on me. That's my fault." And then later on, he went on to say, "I probably should have run it on the first play and said, where are we now?" And yes, that is conventional wisdom. When you're in a situation like that, you're backed up inside your 5-yard line. You don't have a chance to a reasonable chance to attack for a field goal of your own. Run it on first down and then perhaps reassess the situation from there. But passing it 3 straight times, you set yourself up for failure. That's exactly what happens. And it just continues to add to this narrative that Sean McDermott costs his team games. I don't think overall that's true, but in this case, he cost the Bills the chance to win this game by not playing for overtime down the stretch. But like you said, it didn't just come down to McDermott. It came down to really the entire offense failing in this one, and headlined by Josh Allen's historically poor performance. I mentioned the numbers already. But to go with Allen's poor performance, you had the poor effort from the pass catchers. It was a big, big question mark entering the season. Did the Bills have enough at the wide receiver position or pass catchers overall to sustain an offense the way that they have the past number of years? And week by week, it's really proving that the Bills might not have enough, and they might want to pursue a trade with the Las Vegas Raiders for Devontae Adams or perhaps another player down the road here, because as time goes along, these receivers just not in sync with Allen and not able to find space down the field to present themselves with open targets for their quarterback. No player in this game recorded more than 2 receptions for the Bills. Kincaid, Hollins, and Cook, each with 2 receptions. Kincaid yet to go over 50 yards receiving for the season. No pass catcher went over 50 yards in this game. Keon Coleman, 1 catch for 49 yards and the touchdown. The nice catch and run down the sideline. That was really the lone bright spot for this group. But otherwise, these pass catchers are proving to be a problem, and the Bills proving to have a wide receiver problem. Curtis Samuel, I think, amounted for negative yardage here today. Yes, total yards -1 on 2 touches, 1 reception, and 1 rush, -1 yard on the carry. So negative yardage for Curtis Samuel after an entire week of discussion that we needed to see more from Curtis Samuel. Not only does he not make an impact, he makes a negative impact for the Bills. Dalton Kincaid, we were hoping to see more from him. Another drop on 3rd down and another drop later in the game. So Kincaid certainly not trending in the right direction. I know a lot of attention being paid his way, but the best players in this league find a way to get open, and Kincaid has found a way to get open at times, but he's not catching the ball the way that the Bills need him to do. Mac Hollins was the most consistent target early in this game. I'm not sure that's a recipe for success. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 1 great opportunity. He doesn't come back to the ball and fight for the reception. So an abysmal performance put forth by the Bills pass-catching crew, and it really contributed to the dismal day for Josh Allen overall.
Yeah, and that's why it's hard for me to blame Sean McDermott in this loss specifically. And again, I get the late game decision making, and you can say, it cost the Bills, I guess, a chance at overtime. But at the same time, I mean, nine completions in an entire football game. Your tight end that was supposed to be the supposed number 1 guy, like you mentioned, 2 pivotal drops, 2 catches for 34 yards. And I'm not blaming this all, again, like this is not all on Josh Allen, but you just had a lack of, offensive protection on the front in the trenches. You had a lack of kind of a run game. James Cook played all right, 82 yards, 4 yards per carry, a little over 4.1 yards per carry. So a little bit of success in the run game, but I feel like almost they went too much to it at times, especially in the second half. It seemed like it was predictable, especially on those 1st and 10 situations. And it's just like Roy Collins says, it feels like a team that is comprised of wide receiver 3s and 4s. And that's really why I think this offense is struggling. There is no easy button right now for Josh Allen. There is no Cole Beasley, right? There's no guy that you can trust on those 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6.
There's no Stephon Diggs.
There's no Stephon Diggs. So there's not that easy button for this Bills offense right now. Everything seems like a challenge. The offensive line has been outworked and basically outplayed these past couple of weeks against 2 really good teams. And the Bills still played this bad offensively. And again, that's why I give the defense all the credit in the world. You hold the team to 3 points in the second half with all the talent they have over there. I know Nico Collins went down early in that game, but they set you up with an interception in the red zone. They bend, don't break on the opening possession of the game or the second half. And they forced that strip sack to set you up inside the red zone. So I blame, if I'm going to blame something or someone, I'm going to blame this offense as a whole more than the blunder of coaching at the end. But I get it. It's been countless times, right? The Minnesota game a couple years ago where they fumbled the ball in the end zone and then the interception late. That's a game that comes to mind. There's a bunch of these games where in the critical moments, it feels like your head turns to the coaching staff, and it happened again today. And again, it was just a complete performance, but I do blame the offense in this one in terms of it was awful. It was just indescribable of how bad this offense played today, despite those 2 touchdown drives in the second half. It's just not good enough, especially when you have Josh Allen. It's not good enough.
It's always tough to criticize Dawson Knox for his lack of productivity in the passing game. You're never quite sure what he's asked to do on a game-to-game basis, knowing how valuable he is in his run blocking and knowing how the Bills are trying to establish that this year with James Cook, Ty Johnson, and also Ray Davis, who didn't get a carry today against the Houston Texans. But at the same time, I think it's fair to say the contract extension that the Bills signed with Dawson Knox is not really proving to be the right move. Just his value on this team, the way that they use him behind Dalton Kincaid, just not really paying dividends for this team. And like I said, it's hard to criticize him on a game-to-game basis because you don't know what he's being asked to do, and he's no longer a focal point of this passing game. But I just think it's fair to say that that was a miscalculation on the part of the Bills, bringing him back on that 4-year extension. I think there is a chance that they could get out from under that in the near future, but in the current time, it's certainly proving not to be the right decision. And elsewhere, as Roy Collins chimes back in, it's still early, but through 5 games, how satisfied are we with Joe Brady? Through 3 weeks, it was all sunshine and rainbows, wasn't it, AJ? Everything was going good. The Bills were playing their style of offense. They were running the ball. They were not really relying on the passing game, keeping things in the short passing game. But the opposing teams the past 2 weeks, the Ravens and the Texans, have really played them well defensively, particularly today with the Texans limiting Josh Allen to that 30% completion. And I think Joe Brady also has to share some of the criticism. The Bills have been out of sync the past 2 weeks. Josh Allen has looked uncomfortable. The Bills' offensive line has taken a turn for the worse. Spencer Brown, really a liability the past 2 weeks after a really strong start to the season. Had people talking about the Bills might have the best tackle combination in football, but he has since gone off the deep end these past 2 weeks. So a lot of questions on this offensive side of the ball. And not the same way that I said it with Knox, but the same thing I said about Knox. I'm not sure how much blame to lay at Joe Brady's feet after this game, especially after going back. And I'm not a film guru. It's not like I sit there and break down the all 22, but I like to go back and watch the game and get a real feel for it in terms of criticizing the offensive play caller. But I think a lot of this one came down to the players, lack of separation down the field. Josh Allen really struggling in this one. To find his footing in the offensive line, once again, creating some or allowing some pressure from the Houston Texans front.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you can criticize with Joe Brady, and I agree with you, I think the players today were, that was the major factor. The execution was just not good throughout the game. But Joe Brady, when he came in last year in the back half after Dorsey was let go or fired, they still scored points and they were really good offense. They were effective. Now, Diggs wasn't he was targeted almost just as much, but his production went down, and Shakir, his impacts grew and stuff like that. So he was regarded, Joe Brady, as this guy that could get everyone involved, right? Use everyone to their strengths. He was going to make, all these players the best they can be, and they can utilize them in the right way. So far, Curtis Samuel, terrible. Dylan Kincaid, I won't say terrible, but underwhelming and not being utilized, I would say, to the fullest extent, on top of his struggles as a pass catcher and just his overall drops. Keon Coleman, I would say fine, but I mean, a couple targets a game. He hasn't really done much in terms of the pass game. So I just feel like besides James Cook, who I feel like they've done a good job with on offense, Joe Brady actually implementing these guys and using these players to their strengths, which you see from even when the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill, they were still able to use the strengths of, Rashee Rice in his rookie year. I'm going back to last season and a couple of those players over there and utilize them at the right time in the right ways. I just feel like Joe Brady is struggling right now to put the strengths of these playmakers and have them have success. But again, it's tough because he's working with a lot of unproven talent. So it's again, I think it's just a whole collective right now and they have time. It's 5 weeks. Everything was rolling great in the first 3. The last 2, not so much. You lose a game that you probably shouldn't even have been in by 3 today on a last-minute field goal. If they win this game in overtime, we're having a much different conversation right now. And, obviously that's not what happened. But, they'll have time to figure it out, and you just need to hope that Joe Brady is the guy because, again, Josh Allen had a lot of confidence in this guy, and he was his handpicked guy, just like Dorsey was. So, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with Joe.
Anything else on the offensive side of the ball? I think we really touched on it all there. James Cook, a good game, but aside from that, really nothing to write home about here from the Bills offense, maybe other than that Keon Coleman reception. Back to the drawing board once again for this Bills offense.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, we're going to thank our sponsor, and then we'll get to the defensive side of the ball, Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, the defensive side of the ball, Terrell Bernard, a triumphant return. The interception that really helped turn the tide for the Bills. Perhaps the play of the day, maybe that play and the DeJuan Smoot forced fumble, the two plays of the day for the Bills defense. But with the Texans driving midway through the fourth quarter, Bernard, a leaping interception of C.J. Stroud, giving the ball back to the Bills offense with 8:06 remaining in the game. Bills failed to do anything with it, but a splash play from the Bills middle linebacker, something the Bills Bills fans have been waiting for over the years. And Bernard showing no ill effects from that injured pectoral, and his presence really felt in a positive way for the Bills in this one, all over the field. He only had 5 tackles in the takeaway, but I thought did a nice job in communication. The Bills had fewer defensive breakdowns in this one, the one from rookie Cole Bishop that we'll get to a little bit later. But let's talk about Bernard's big day and the interception, and really a big moment for him with his teammates going back to the sideline.
Yeah, great play by Bernard. I don't really know what Stroud was looking at there. I think he was just trying to get the ball to Diggs and force it to him, and Bernard was just there, kind of undercut it and took the ball away for a pivotal, again, to give the ball back to the offense and allow them to potentially do something with it, but they punted it away. So I thought the Bills defense played well besides that first half. I feel like that's been the case. Now there's a few games now, Alex. You get Arizona, 3 points in the first half. Obviously, they figured it out in the second half, and the defense kind of buckled down. And then the Baltimore game, 3 points. And the offense, I guess, had its moments in the second half, but it just kind of the trick play kind of just ruined that. And then today, so there's been some slow starts for the Bills offense. They've scored 3 points now, I think, in 3 of the 5 games they've played. So these slow starts are really hurting them, and it's making this defense having to play lights out and make these adjustments. And you keep giving them opportunities after opportunity after opportunity, and the offense has just failed to really chime in on it or cash in on it, I should say. Dorian Williams, I thought, played well today, led the team with 11 total tackles. Cam Lewis flew around. I saw someone tweeted it, I forgot who, but Tank Dell lined up in the slot one of the plays and ran a drag over the middle, and someone said, I think Cam Lewis going up against Tank Dell in the slot on a drag route, it's not the most ideal thing, and that's not going to work. So there was definitely some moments there that Cam Lewis struggled, but I thought overall he played okay. Dwayne Carter,
big tackle for loss early in the game for Cam Lewis.
Yeah, and then Dwayne Carter, the big a couple tackles for loss, 3 total solo tackles in the game. Going down the list here, DeJuan Smoot, like you mentioned, the sack. But I think I guess I'll continue to be a little negative here. What came of Greg Rousseau and Ajay Epinesa again today? Greg Rousseau, 1 solo tackle. Ajay Epinesa, 1 total tackle, and it was an assist, not even a solo tackle. So Greg Rousseau starts the season with 3 sacks and has now gone 4 games in a row without really any production. Ajay Epinesa, where's he been? He hasn't really done much. I get it. They pressure. Greg Rousseau forced Stroud out of the pocket on that one play, but Stroud escaped, broke free, and then dodged a tackle from Dorian Williams to pick up the first down. So I just don't really know how this defensive line, these edge rushers, are finishing right now. And you re-sign Epinesa on the offseason. What has he done? Not much. And Greg Rousseau is playing for a contract. And again, I know he's a good run stopper, but he continues to fail in finishing plays. So the defensive line still a big concern. Besides Dwayne Carter, who I thought balled out today, I thought Daquan Jones looked a bit better. Terrell Bernard, like you mentioned, played well, and then the back end, Douglas, a little miscommunication there with Bishop.
Right, which I'd like to get to next. The rookie report here, Dwayne Carter and Cole Bishop both thrust into starting action here today. Bishop really burned on that deep ball touchdown from Nico Collins, the 67-yard catch and run. You saw Rasul Douglas near the end of that play really putting his palms to the air, shrugging his shoulders. Where was the rookie on that play? And Bishop certainly a coverage breakdown. And I'm not sure you can totally blame Bishop for his inconsistent performance here this afternoon. I just think he was put into a tough position. I tweeted it out last week and put it in my article as well. I don't think Bishop was ready for this opportunity. I think I would have much rather seen a heavier rotation. I'd like to see the snap counts and see if they did indeed rotate back there, but not enough. I didn't see enough from Bishop today. Damar Hamlin is what he is at this point. I think he's a solid player, and he's earned his spot in the starting lineup, but I think he's just a bit late to the football sometimes, maybe a step slow in his pursuit, and that allowed the Texans to pick up some big gains, one of which came on a 3rd and long. But Bishop, inconsistent, but like I said, I'm not sure you can heap all the blame on his shoulders. I think he was just thrust into a difficult situation with Taylor Rapp out. The Bills were already struggling at the safety position heading into the season, and then you lose really your stalwart back there in Taylor Rapp, and that forces Bishop into action, and he gets burned on that play. As far as Dwayne Carter, I was impressed by his performance today up front. He was also forced into a starting role. Ed Oliver out with the hamstring injury, and Dwayne Carter came through with a tackle for loss, his second in as many weeks early in the game, and really fared well outside of the rushing touchdown there from the Texans. Cam Akers early in the game, he and Zion Logue both got blown up on the play, created a huge hole off the left side, and Akers took it for the touchdown. But I think it was hot and cold from the rookies today, maybe more encouraging from Carter, maybe more to worry about from Bishop's perspective. But overall, I think a lot of concerns on the defensive side of the ball as injuries continue to play a role and the Bills continue to look for answers. They did a nice job not breaking today, but the big play, the breakdown from Bishop and a few other question marks. Dorian Williams, like you mentioned, I think he had his bright spots, but for as many big plays as Dorian Williams makes, I think he also gets lost on certain plays. So I think there's some hot and cold there as well. But that's how I saw it with the rookies today against the Texans.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you're relying on a lot of new pieces on this defense, and the overhaul on the defensive side of the ball. I get it. There's still some key pieces there, but you lose Matt Milano before the season. You lose your 2 safeties. I mean, this defense, I still think it's played really good in terms of what they've kind of faced. You got your Marcus Ingram out there, Cam Lewis, 2 guys that you didn't really expect to see many snaps, and they're out there. Dorian Williams, a guy that you thought was going to be a rotational linebacker. I think I would have to go back and watch Damar Hamlin again, but these past couple of weeks and throughout the season, I know he had the interception against the Jags, and it's a good story, but I think there should be some major look into the safety position after this game in terms of what they should do there, because Damar Hamlin, he's just always a step behind to me, and when
Micah Hyde,
Micah Hyde, yeah, potentially, and he's a guy that, I don't know. I'm just not satisfied with Damar Hamlin in terms of that safety spot. I thought he's just not played that well, although he did look strong in the preseason and training camp. Cole Bishop, like you mentioned, he was all right, hot and cold, like you said. The miscommunication, Rasul Douglas took the blame post-game, a veteran move for him. But
right.
I don't know. We'll see what Cole Bishop becomes. It's his first game in the NFL. What do you really expect? The Bills obviously felt like he was capable of being out there, and I thought he held his own besides that big play. So hopefully he can continue to learn and continue to grow in this defense, and each week becomes a better player. And, we'll see what Rick Collins here says. Where is Mike Edwards? I think that's another, avenue of this is you got to try and see maybe what you can get out of Mike Edwards. But again, this defense hasn't really been destroyed in the passing game over the top. So I don't know. It's tough because the Bills' rushing defense is, I'm sure, the bigger concern right now in terms of the defense.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the lack of production from the interior defensive linemen, even leading into this week, was a concern. And then you have Ed Oliver go down. Dwayne Carter performed admirably, but Daquan Jones, I've been very uninspired by his performance this season. A second straight game without a tackle for Daquan Jones. Excuse me, never mind. He had 6. I missed him. My apologies. Just missed him on the stat sheet. Didn't have a tackle last week. I guess he contributed a bit more today. But and I guess on the one play, which one was it? Early in the game, I think it was the 4th down where Bernard came through to stuff the run. Daquan Jones did have some penetration on that play. So maybe Daquan Jones doing a bit better, but all in all this season, I've been uninspired by his play. Ed Oliver hasn't really followed up on a successful 2023 season. Bills are going to have to find some answers on the interior to slow these opposing running games. As far as pass rush was concerned, you mentioned Ajay Epinesa and Greg Rousseau not doing much in this game. We'll check the stats here. Rousseau with 1 tackle, Epinesa with 1 tackle. Obviously, Smoot comes away with the sack, forces the fumble. I thought he had a really big game, his most impressive performance. He was able to hold himself back from the flying knees this week and the personal fouls. That was also a positive aspect of his game. But aside from that, the Bills' pass rush didn't really mount much. Javon Solomon got some extra time. Casey Toohill also with Von Miller on the suspension. So up front, I think the Bills' defensive line has left plenty to be desired this year. That really continued today, maybe outside of Daquan Jones and DeJuan Smoot. But that's another area of concern for this team moving forward. One area of concern of many for this team moving forward. As Mo Band says here, going back to our wide receiver conversation, you need a wide receiver one. It's simple, and he could be onto something there. I think early in the season, the everybody eats mentality was all well and good, but it's really tough when everybody seems to be starving within that wide receiver and pass catching room after the first 5 weeks of the season. And it might be time, like I said, for the Bills to peruse that free agent market.
Yeah, I don't know what a one does. I get it. If they do it, I get excited because
and they were without Khalil Shakir in this game, so that also has to be mentioned. You're missing the focal point of your passing game. That's really going to downgrade everybody else. But even at the same time, with Khalil Shakir, the other receivers have left plenty to be desired in pass games.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nate Tice just tweeted over at the Yahoo Sports NFL Network, works for them. Josh Allen was pressured on 16 dropbacks today. So that goes back to the offensive line. Just not the last 2 games, the battle in the trenches has just not been won by the Bills. And that's probably one of the biggest factors why we're here right now. He was 1 for 14 for 24 yards when he was pressured on those 16 dropbacks. So he completed 1 pass on 14 attempts for 24 yards and was pressured on 16 of his 30 dropbacks against the Texans. So you're not going to win games like that when your offensive line's allowing that many pressures. Your pass catchers can't separate. Your quarterback. There was a couple boneheaded plays by Josh. He was trying to get greedy on the one drive and almost threw a couple interceptions. He had Dalton Kincaid on a seam route wide open. If you put a little more air under it, it's a touchdown. He threw it short and it was almost intercepted. And the next play rolls to his right. He was you see him trying to look down the field and trying to make that big play on 3rd and down and almost, again, threw it right into the hands of a Houston defender. So I thought before the game that was going to be an issue. It showed up a little bit, but it was, again, he couldn't even complete the ball to his own receivers because 1, they couldn't catch, 2, the protection didn't hold up, or 3, he just was inaccurate. So there's just a lot not to like. Good news, they're 3-2. The Jets fell to 2-3 today. So they still have a lead in the AFC East, and if you get back on track next week, get some guys healthy, you could be 4-2 with a 2-game lead in the AFC East potentially. So that's. Go ahead.
No, sorry about that.
Oh.
I jumped the gun.
Oh.
That was a miscue on my.
That's all right. That's all right. You can play it. Go ahead.
A misfire. But after I interrupt AJ there, I do apologize. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Forefathers Organics in Dansville. Hair trigger, AJ. They've always said that about me. But at Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. One last item of note in this game, as far as my docket is concerned, Tyler Bass, a good game, connected from 38 and 33 yards, the second of which tied the game. So I know they're inside 40 yards, and if you're missing from that range, it's really time to call the police, perhaps. But Bass, somewhat of a bounce-back effort with 2 made field goals. And Sam Martin, I thought, had a reasonably good day, at least from my perspective. I don't know how close I was paying, close attention I was paying to the punting, but an average of 50 yards, per punt on 8 punts today. So, in a long of 63, 5 of them landed inside the 20. So, a pretty good day for the Bills special teams, I thought, AJ, all in all.
Yeah, Tyler Bass nailed the field goal, a clutch field goal. Like you said, it was a short field goal, 33 yards, but nonetheless made it in a big spot and tied the game up. I just realized, Roy Collins says he did pick Houston. I also did. I had it 24-20. So that's probably actually like the closest I've ever, because I always throw out these predictions just for fun. Like I've been doing podcasts for a couple years and I'm usually never that close. So actually cool to be off by 1 point for Houston today. So I guess I did expect this, but this is the way it went. Not ideal for the Bills in terms of what went wrong, because a lot did go wrong. Go ahead.
I picked 42-41. I tweeted out the clown putting on the makeup in the mirror meme at halftime. Yeah, not a great performance by me in terms of my prediction. This was a defensive battle for sure.
Yeah, it's tough. So again, this Bills team, everything is still in front of them. Are they a Super Bowl contender? That's tough to kind of wrap your head around right now after these 2 performances, but they can still, there's so much to grow, so much more room to learn, and hopefully they learn from this. And I know we've been saying that a while, but hopefully they can learn from this, use this for some positive. And I'm sure the players are down. You suffer 2 losses, one a complete domination by the Ravens, and then this one kind of more of a heartbreaker. So this Bills team needs to figure it out, and you can get it all back on track with the Jets next week. But yeah, Bass had a good game, and Sam Martin punted the ball well.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of the grand scope conversation where the Bills sit in terms of the pecking order of the AFC and the NFL. After 3 games, we were all looking at the Bills as one of the top teams in the league. Now, I think we're back to square one where we were at the beginning of the year. Not sure what to expect of this team. 2 straight dud-type performances. I know they showed a bit more inspiration in the second half, but that first half was really, really poor today against the Texans. They fall to 3-2. The one thing the Bills have going for them in the AFC East stinks. The Jets have proven to be a bad team. Miami has fallen off the cliff without Tua Tagovailoa. New England is what we thought New England would be. So that's the one thing the Bills have going for them. In a year where they may be taking a step back in terms of figuring things out offensively, Josh Allen gaining that rapport with his receivers early in the year. They're 3-2. The next best team in the AFC East is 2-3 in the Jets, who really didn't look good for most of the game against the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Rodgers overthrows in that game. I believe a couple of interceptions, one of them a pick 6, which was only the 5th, I think, pick 6 in his career. So Rodgers not at the top of his game, of course, a 40-year-old quarterback. But that's the one thing the Bills have going for them, AJ. The AFC East stinks, for the lack of a better word, and it appears that they remain the front runner despite some inconsistent play these past 2 weeks.
Yeah, they're going to have to worry about that Jets defense. I thought they played really well. The Jets defense was really the only reason that they were able to stay in that game today. So I think the Jets defense will still give this Bills a lot of trouble with what they do. And Quinton Williams, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, CJ Mosley, Will McDonald's playing a lot better for them on the edge, the second-year player from Iowa State. So they have a lot of pieces over there. Their defense is going to probably keep them in that game, and the offense just needs to execute, not turn the ball over. But you're right. This AFC East is pretty poor, and Tua should be back probably in a few weeks here, week 8, week 9. So we'll see if the Dolphins can hang on long enough to get him back and try and make a midseason late run. But for the Bills, everything's still in front of them, like we've said, and you just got to throw this one away and move on and hope you get healthy, get Shakir back, get Terrence Johnson back, and keep moving forward.
As I tweet out another promo for the pod, get some more people in here. Let's look at the rest of the AFC. Pittsburgh at 3-1, Baltimore at 3-2. Baltimore was able to edge Cincinnati today, a calamity for the Bengals at the end of that game. They missed the field goal, a bad hold by the rookie punter, I think, there. And the Bengals fall to 1-4, and Baltimore able to salvage that one. But it looked like the Ravens were on the doorstep of 2-3. So things really flipping for the Ravens these past couple of weeks. Pittsburgh somehow starts the season at 3-1, and the Texans 4-1 after this game, but they certainly showed chinks in their armor, and we'll have to monitor Nico Collins' injury. You saw their offense and the turn it took without Collins. They've already been out without their running back, Joe Mixon. If they're to be without Collins for an extended time, that would certainly be a thorn in their side. Did you see what the injury was from Collins, and then your overall thoughts on really the rest of the AFC here, which includes Kansas City, of course, at 4-0 as it stands right now?
Yeah, it was a hamstring injury, so probably just trying to be preventative with that. He didn't look
at the same time. That's something that could linger for a wide receiver. That's something that's tough for that position.
Right. So he seemed in good spirits, and again, I think it was more preventative. Maybe they'll get him back next week. Maybe he'll sit a week, but I don't think it was to the extent like it was that bad. He didn't seem he didn't have that heavy of a limp, so it didn't seem too bad. But again, preventative. I think it was probably the right call by Houston to keep him out, and they still won the game without him. So props to them. But yeah, looking around the AFC, I mean, you had the Chiefs, who again, it's an ongoing joke with me and my buddy. I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl every year, and I'll be right 60% of the time. And all of you, I'll be like Peter Schrager. All of you can pick, the Packers, the Bills, or this or that, and I'll just be right 60% of the time. But yeah, and then so the Chiefs there, AFC East, like we've talked about, is just a disaster. Steelers, they'll find ways to win. The Ravens really got lucky. Lamar Jackson was in the shotgun on the 40-yard line in overtime, and he was kind of clapping to get the snap off. They snapped it, bounced off his hands. His offensive lineman kicks it backwards. The Cincinnati guy's about to pick it up. Lamar punches it out, but then Cincinnati recovers. Then on the opposite end, McPherson has like a 40, 50-yarder, misses it, gives the ball back to Baltimore, and then Justin Tucker steals the deal. Derrick Henry rips off like a 60-yard run. So the Ravens got lucky. The Bengals choked. They're now 1-4. And I've looked at their schedule multiple times. It's not getting much easier for Cincinnati. They still have a lot of tough games down the stretch. And then the AFC South, you got Houston. And then the rest of that division is, the Colts lose today with Joe Flacco over there. That was a crazy game too. High scoring. Jaguars finally get a win, and the Titans are the Titans with the roller coaster over there with Will Levis. So again, it's the Chiefs and the Ravens and probably everybody else right now at this point in terms of what I've seen so far through 5 weeks in the AFC.
And one last note from today's game, as Roy Collins points out in the comments, Stephon Diggs gets his vengeance here. He leads the Texans in receiving after Collins goes out. 6 catches, 82 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but made a number of nice catches. That one sliding grab across the middle, that's what the Bills are really missing in their offense. Now, I'm not saying that the Bills should be regretting moving on from Diggs. It was an unhappy marriage. They needed to cut those ties. It just needed to happen the way that it did. But the Bills are certainly missing his services. And like you mentioned, the easy button player in this offense and somebody that they can go to on a consistent basis. It's just not happening for this offense. And Diggs all smiles after the game, saying he really wanted to do more showing than talking. He avoided maybe not avoided, but a pregame interaction between he and Josh Allen. Really, he and any of his teammates didn't really happen pregame, but postgame after the Texans got the win, he made sure to dap up all of his former teammates. I wonder if that would have happened if the Texans would have lost, or if he would have stormed into the locker room and stormed out like he did a few times after Bills postseason losses. But I guess that conversation neither here nor there as the Bills come out on the losing side.
Yeah, the interaction with Josh was someone screenshotted a picture of Diggs giving Allen the side eye after the interaction. It was just kind of funny.
Icy.
Yeah, so they're not friends anymore.
No.
They're not friends anymore. So that's
they might be enemies now. They might truly not like each other anymore.
Yeah. They don't have a relationship. It was a quick slap up after the game. I saw Diggs' post-game speech. You did it all for me. Like, you don't know how much I appreciate this. I'm going to go to Dallas next year. The
impression from AJ. We're coming in hot here.
Yeah.
Right now.
We're coming in hot because, he makes it about him, which is what he's best at. But, yeah, that is, good for Diggs. Shots fired. He's a great player. He made the Bills a lot better at the end of the day, and they are missing him right now. Like you said, he was that easy button. Cole Beasley was that easy button. So, again, all in fun. Diggs gets his revenge. Good for him. The Texans are 4-1, and I'm sure these teams might see each other down the line here if the Bills can figure their shenanigans out on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, before our closing remarks, we'll thank our sponsor one more time, Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, much like we mentioned already, a tough loss for the Bills and a lot to discuss in terms of the miscues and the shortcomings that the team faced today against the Houston Texans. But like we said after the Ravens loss, I don't think the sky is falling for this team. I think you expected slip-ups to begin the year. I think the way that they started the season 3-0, I think you started to get comfortable maybe and start to change your opinion of this team, that they were going to go back to the Bills that we've seen the past several years, where they just kind of cruise through the regular season. I don't think that's going to be the case this year, and it's proven to be the case these past 2 weeks, the blowout loss to the Ravens and the close loss to the Houston Texans. But I think for Bills fans, you just have to regroup and you have to look forward. Another potentially tough matchup coming up with the Jets. They haven't looked great this year, but it's a divisional matchup, a team that you've struggled with, particularly with their defense. So the Bills just have to kind of pick up the pieces, move forward. Josh Allen not panicking after this game. I don't think anybody really was in that locker room. And I don't think you'll see panic from this team this year. They know what they are. They expect maybe some growing pains, and they've experienced those through the first 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and real quick here, Ryan O'Halloran from the Buffalo News tweets out 33 minutes ago, Bills veteran on final offensive series of 3 passes and no rushes, and I quote, "I hope the coaches learn from it." So talk about shots fired.
Who said that? He didn't say who the veteran was?
It was anonymous. He kept it anonymous. There was no name.
Oh, interesting.
Which is interesting. But that, I mean, a veteran saying that after a loss on week 5, I don't know if that's really a good sign. But anyway, that's that.
No, I don't think that is that. I think we need to touch on that. Is there some trouble in paradise, AJ, with the Bills? So we need
name the player. 13. There's a lot of good
Bills veteran on final. Yeah, I hope the coaches learn from it. He did not say who the Bills veteran was. That's an interesting move there. But yeah, what do you think with that, AJ? Trouble in paradise for the Bills after this game? It was all, like I said, sunshine and rainbows after the first 3 weeks. And while there haven't been any signs of panic, maybe this one, the first sign of a disruption in the locker room.
And I mean, a veteran, you got to think a veteran. So Dion.
I think it's tough to spec, but yeah,
right. Yeah. I'm trying to think of veterans in my head that would say that. My point is the veteran that this is talked about has probably been through 13 seconds and all these,
right,
heartbreaking losses. So the veteran probably feels like this coaching staff has failed them multiple times in big moments. And I mean, again, I think it's kind of weird to remain anonymous and put that out there anonymously, but either way, it was said by a veteran in the Bills locker room. And that's, again, not a good sign for what they're kind of trying to build here this year with a kind of a transitional phase going on.
Yeah. I said it earlier that the narrative with Sean McDermott starting to build amongst the fan base and the media, obviously last year it really was starting to build, and 13 seconds is when it was ignited. But his late game decision making, if that narrative is starting to build inside this Bills locker room and they're starting to lose faith in their head coach, those continued growing pains that I expect them to go through, that could have potential to fracture this locker room. You'd like to think that the leadership is strong, and you'd like to think that Sean McDermott has the support of his team and of his veterans, especially many of which that have come along in this system. But this a strong sign of displeasure from the Bills' potential leadership group. It doesn't say if it's somebody who's been on the Bills for a lengthy period of time, but Bills veteran speaking out against Sean McDermott, certainly not a good sign for the Bills head coach. But as I said, I still don't believe the sky is falling for this team. What you have, what you've proven through the first 5 weeks of the season. You've shown some good, you've shown some bad, and I think you just have to regroup, go into next week, head to New York on Monday night, exercise some demons inside that building, get to Aaron Rodgers early and often, make him uncomfortable, because if you keep him comfortable in that pocket, he's shown that he can make some big-time throws still at this stage of his career.
Yeah, it's it's move on, move forward. Again, there's going to be a lot of overreactions to this, just like the first 3 games everything was perfect and this team was coming together and they didn't need anybody of these veterans and it was all good in the hood and all that stuff. But now everything's, kind of taking a turn, and that's the NFL. That's the life in the NFL. Like Sean McDermott always says, margins are slim. Everyone knows that. And it's going to be, they face adversity. And I said this, they're going to face adversity, and it's how they respond to it. And again, if the coaches, not losing the locker room, but again, that is definitely a major development. That is something that is definitely a major development. So we'll see and keep an eye on that throughout the week. But yeah, let's look forward to the Jets here.
And the coaches was in parenthesis. So I would expect that the players said, I hope they learn from it or something in that respect. And Ryan is deciphering those words as I hope the coaches learn from it, as is often done in this business. But if you look across the NFL today, AJ, a lot of action taking place. Miami comes away with a win over New England. Jacksonville beats Indianapolis, another team on the Bills' schedule. I mentioned Baltimore edging Cincinnati, Chicago blasting Carolina, Minnesota edging the Jets in that game, as we mentioned. And then going on right now, you have Denver leading Las Vegas, San Francisco over Arizona. Bills will face San Francisco later in this year. They're starting to get healthy with Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk all on the field. And then Juwan Jennings really establishing himself in that passing game as well. I've yet to get Christian McCaffrey back, but San Francisco, a good lead over Arizona to begin the fourth quarter. Green Bay beating LA, the Giants beating Seattle. And then what do we have in terms of primetime? Kansas City taking on New Orleans on Monday, Pittsburgh against Dallas on Sunday night. Any other thoughts, AJ, whether it be from the game here today, whether it be moving forward on the Bills' schedule, whether it be what you did today, what you had to eat? I know you had some sauce on the stove earlier. Your mother, Teresa, just a phenomenal cook, I'm sure. I have yet to indulge in some of the treats, but any final thoughts, whether it be the Bills or otherwise?
Yeah, nothing much. Have not ate yet. So that will be followed up after this. But yeah, that is about it. Sat, watched the game, put the game story together, and now I'm here doing this. So another day in watching the Bills and another heartbreaking loss. So it is what it is, and we'll be back sometime this week to look forward and move ahead and focus on this Jets matchup that the Bills will desperately need.
It's so quick how Bills fans fall off the bandwagon. After 3 weeks, they love Joe Brady, and now X is calling for Ben Johnson. I'm not sure if that's head coach. I'm sure that is head coach.
Yeah.
So head coach, offensive coordinator there. But Bills look to regroup next week, 3-2, heading into this matchup with the Jets. We will see you next time.
Peace out.